All right, we're back. Another episode of Sports, Politics, Culture. T-Dubs, Mark. Jerome, what is the
A lot,
latest?
a lot of good actions. Can't stop talking about women's sports, about women's basketball, college basketball, right?
Yes.
Got to talk about OJ.
OJ's a big
Right?
one. It's a weird one, but a big one.
Yep. Kentucky basketball,
I
right?
like,
And for me, is the brand bigger or is the coach name bigger?
right.
Um, and if we have
Otani.
time, some gambling in Otani.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Still disturbed by the whole gambling thing. Like watching, we'll get to it later, watching an arena have FanDuel logo on its court. Like, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Have some real frustration with it. But let's hit the eclipse of women's basketball. There's been a meme or an image going around showing the 2024 women's basketball, I guess in the form of a sun or a moon, eclipsing men's basketball, which has been amazing when you look at the first time ever women's basketball drew more viewers than men's basketball. I'll add one to that. I'm in my building today. A friend of mine stops me. Hey, Mark, how are you? I'm not a sports fan at all, but I watched women's basketball, college basketball. It was so good. She loved it. She reminded me 5 times that she's not a sports fan.
That's really cool.
By the way, I didn't watch the men's. I was like, I get it. So,
I mean, though, I was thinking about this too. Long term, like the range that college basketball has now, like it's got obviously it's kind of a cult following, but like they've kind of settled on really the coaches are the stars because they stay. I'm thinking for women's basketball, they really made it more about the players. I mean, Dawn being the exception, but like, Paige Beckers and um obviously Kate, I'm like so doubling down on Caitlin Clark. When she leaves, like there's a major hole and gap that's going to be there. And to just automatically try to fill it with an like college basketball at some point said, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to market the coaches because they're going to be here and then make it all about the coaches. Whereas the women's game right now is relying on the players. And that's, a thing that's a lot tougher to sort of cycle through because, it's college, you graduate.
but not only that, but I'm sorry, go ahead, finish what you're
No,
saying.
that's it. That's
So the storylines, right? You don't have a chance necessarily
right.
to develop a storyline with a college basketball player because they
Yeah,
leave.
right.
The male contact. They leave after the first year, and now they're either transferring or leaving after the first year for the best players. Right, kid from Duke just announced today that he was going to leave.
Right.
All these other kids, which I'm not mad at anybody for doing it, but we don't have a chance to really
Right.
follow them. If you're a fan of that team, of that school, a lot of times you don't have a chance to develop a relationship with them, actually knowing if you actually know them, or just rooting for them. There's no
Right.
storyline to develop where women are staying 3, 4, 5 years,
I
right?
mean,
And you get the records, and you're either rooting for the record or you're rooting against it. Most people are going to root for it, I think.
yeah. And I mean, Don Staley, obviously the exception, right? Like, I don't even know Iowa's coach's name. Like, she was pretty, like, not, I won't say invisible, but she was not outspoken and she was not highlighted. But Don obviously was. So maybe there's
Her and
something there.
Kim Mulkey too. Well, I think you have
Yeah.
three. You have three major college
Gino,
coaches:
maybe.
Gino, Kim Mulkey, and Dawn.
Yeah.
Right? Those three are big names that people know. I
Yeah.
don't know the Iowa coach's woman's
Yeah.
name,
Yeah.
and he's not. They haven't won, and Iowa's been in it for since Caitlin Clark's been there.
Yeah. For 3 or 4 years, they've been in the huge spotlight and nobody knows her name, which kind of,
Except for people from Iowa.
yeah, I don't know what you think about that, but that's kind of weird. But
Oh, your point's well taken, right? And the men, this. Now, of course, I think the men are all on TV and followed from high school
right.
through the leave their freshman year, sophomore year, right? So people know about them because they're all over Twitter, they're all over social media, and they have
Yeah.
huge followings.
Yeah, they have a massive history of to in a legacy that women's is starting to create today. So it's kind of fun to watch it from inception, you know?
And so I think there's those stories. I think the time of the games too. Like I was, someone said, okay, the game's coming on at 3 o'clock. The women's game's coming on at 3 o'clock. I was like, there's no way the women are going to get so many fans. It can't outdo the Iowa LSU game. Well, clearly I was wrong.
And it was the reverse for men. People were complaining the men's game was too late. So yeah,
Not for me, but for a lot of people.
for a lot of people it was too, and I think they failed to remember that the game was in Phoenix. The game was on the West Coast. So probably a little more, an hour or so later than it normally would be, right? Like in terms of, I don't think last year's was 9. I think it was 8. Yeah.
No, it's always 9:18
Oh,
or
is it?
9:20.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's late. That's definitely late because it's ending at midnight. Like
yeah.
my thing is like I gotta. To me, it's not over till one shining moment is over. So I watch it all the way through to the end. You know, like
Hard for me to watch it anymore. One
you
shiny
don't.
moment.
Oh, I love it.
My dream is over, right?
Yeah, we saw the big one, but it's still like
Yeah.
every year for me watching it, it's kind of like I don't know. This year, obviously losing my father, and that it felt even more emotional because I'm like, oh man, this is, and it's just like a reminder of me another season passing, and like time passing by, and like it's people like us that are living in the world of college basketball. For me, that's a moment that I sit there and kind of soak in. Like, is it? This is the last of another season gone by, and it's just for my it like not just basketball but like my life, my kids, like it's all entangled for me. So like watching it, I have all those emotions, which is probably more than 99.9% of people in the world, but I watch it, it feels different. Yeah.
So I owe you like $10, depending on how much you charge me per hour or per minute. You just helped me realize why I don't like a couple of reasons why I don't want to watch it because it is another year
Yeah.
going by, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, I don't want to recognize that. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
In addition to the Virginia team being in it, and
Yeah.
like that was Nirvana, right? That was
That was the greatest one ever. I watch it all. Like I told you, I save that on my YouTube when I need to up when I need a pick me up. I'll watch the 2019 quick March Madness. Like literally on my way to Vegas, right before I landed, I'm like, I'm just gonna get this in real quick before I gotta watch the 2019 one shiny moment just to get me in the right mood.
but somebody sent me the 2019 Virginia version of One Shiny
Yeah, I've
Moment.
seen that one where Mama D tips at the beginning.
Chills every time.
Amazing.
But going back to, but no, it's a great point. Like it's another year and we get a chance to reflect, not just college basketball, but life.
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
For
It's
me,
true.
that's what I do. Like all of my like, after the game, it's kind of late. Kids are getting ready to bed. My wife's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Nah, it's not over for me until when she's like, all right, I was, we're gonna go, we're going." I was like, all right, so I watched it, and
Yeah. I went home. I was out hanging out with friends, and before One Shiny Moment, I was like, no. But no, I understand that and makes sense. And the women's game, going back to the women's game, so you have the time of day, the reasons why I think the the women's game is the amount of people watching was much higher. They get much higher ratings.
right,
Time of day would shock that because when you look at the 3 o'clock afternoon on a Sunday, I was at one of my daughter's games.
right,
There were a lot of girls playing, a lot of
right,
adults, and it
right.
was a nice day outside. I thought the CBS was going to lose a ton of fans. Like, was it on CBS or ABC or whatever channel it was
It
on?
was on ESPN.
ESPN. I thought they were going to lose a lot of fans, but apparently not. And then I think the reasons why the men's, the time of day, right, really late on the East Coast, but it also is on TNT, and not everybody has TNT.
Yeah, it's different.
Dude,
Yeah,
more people have ESPN or CBS
right.
or ABC versus TNT, right? But I think the time of day and also the product. And we don't like who are the guys on my 16U AAU team? um, which and they're good. Most of them play in college. Like they all watched it, but they didn't know who the players were.
Yeah,
They had no idea. They're not watching college basketball like I
right,
certainly did knew all the players when I was that age.
right. It's very different today. It's kind of, I mean,
They
everything
know
is
the
different today.
everybody knows Zach Edey is, but
Right,
I don't think they know anybody else.
right.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
women's
truthfully, when I'm watching the women's game, I have no vested interest in it. I'm just watching for pure entertainment value. I don't really know the players nor care to like learn all of this. Like I just kind of watch, and it's fun to watch. And it's kind of relaxing versus I feel like I know too much in college basketball that you know it's kind of
yeah,
in the men's game that I have there's too much history that I've acquired that makes it a little weird. I don't know.
yeah. And I also say for the women's game, the you're starting to get some like heated storylines. They're starting to get a little fuel to the fire. Like
Yeah,
Taurasi, I didn't know this again until my friend in the building. I was like, "What?" She's like, "And that Diana Taurasi, she shouldn't be talking about that Caitlin Clark like that." You went from never watching a game now
to
to being
be in.
involved, but that's the reason why, right? The storyline,
Yeah,
beefs and the battles and the who you like and who you don't like. And I read up on the Diana Taurasi, Caitlin Clark. I guess criticism, but I don't know if Diana Taurasi was completely just criticizing.
yeah. No, I think she's just backing up her UConn team. Like,
Well, she's back up two things. She's back up a UConn team, and she's also letting people know, like, when you come in the league, you're not an automatic immediate star,
right,
just like none of us were.
right,
It's rare that
right,
someone's coming first year and just going to set the league on fire.
right. Yeah,
And most, and that's what her thing was. I don't think it was an attack. And then I guess on All the Smoke, I think it was All the Smoke. I want to say Steven Jackson was talking to, um, gosh, I can't think of her name, talking about Diana Taurasi. And Diana, like, she, the woman she was talking about, one of the top scorers before Caitlin Clark. I can't think of it.
Kelsey Plum, I think.
Kelsey Plum, thank you. Was talking about a play where she talking about Diana Taurasi being a jerk, and she gave her so much credit for being an incredible player. But she said she got a rebound, offensive rebound. She drove back out. She's like, "Well, I'm gonna go by her old ass." Try to drove past her, and Diana Taurasi throws her shoulder and knocks her down. Right? She's like, "I get it." She was laughing. She can't keep up now as much as she could. And she says Diana Taurasi. She just gave her a lot of credit for being the player she was, but saying that she plays with a lot of emotion.
Yeah, you can
Right?
see
She
that.
beat her to the basket so easily, right? Because she's got a lot of ego, and she's not going to let that happen. I get that. Right? You
No,
get older, you different parts of your game, including your brain, but also maybe your hands more, right? Instead of being able to move your feet because you can't do it as much as well as you once could.
did you also see Don Staley's comments on transgender?
Oh,
Someone asked her in the post game about what are her thoughts on transgender athletes and playing the women's game, and she said, she's paraphrasing here, but she's like, I support it. If you feel like if you believe you're a woman, you should be in this game, which I thought was awesome. And she's a huge figure in that sport. And for her to support trans athletes playing in women's basketball, I thought was really cool. And she just said, yeah, if you think you're a woman, I think you should play here. That was it. That was the end of it.
that is going against the grain of the
Yeah,
majority.
it really is. Yeah, that was cool. I thought it was really cool. Of course, we have a special place for Dawn Staley being from UVA and all the things she's accomplished. Like that's really cool that she would go out and say that. Like, hey, that's my. She was like, this is my opinion. This is what I feel. He's like, I know not everyone else feels that way, but she's like, hey, man, if you think you're a woman, you should play.
During a time when multiple that I've just recently read, counties and athletic associations
Are
are
banning it. Yeah,
and eliminating transgenders from competing.
right.
Fascinating. I wonder her. She's got leverage. She has power right now.
Yeah, for sure.
What that's going to mean, right? So now let's see a transgender try to play women's college basketball at a high level, or do people start recruiting transgender people to play college basketball or run track or
Right. No,
what have
I thought it was really neat that she went out and said that.
you? Yeah, it is.
I
Huh.
mean, it's obviously a very touchy subject for so many people, even though it's like really doesn't affect that many people. It's just, I yeah, it's just a weird one.
It doesn't affect a lot of people. You're right. Not, at least not right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear there's so much like um, angst and talk about transgenders and rights and all of that, but I'm like, it's strange to me because it's not very common still today. At least I don't see it being that common. Like, I've worked in the Bay for, 25 years. I think I've had one other employee that was. I've worked with one person that was a transgender in all those years at like, companies with thousands of people or one. So I don't know. Maybe it's more prevalent than I think, but I don't come across it enough. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is that true for you too, or no?
Yeah, no, I have a cousin who's transgender, um, but I don't know too many people. Not at least that I know of.
Yeah.
You know, it's rare. It's absolutely rare.
So it's like a rare case that, truthfully, a lot of people don't understand, but have strong opinions on. It's really, really bizarre to me. Like it's like an edge case almost, and we're focusing on that edge and arguing like crazy and dividing people over this thing that may or may not ever happen. Um, but yeah, it's like, oh, I don't want them going into my. I'm like, when's the last time you saw a transgender person in general? Now you're worried about them doing what now? Like it's just so strange. Like I don't get it. But
Right, I'm going to pose a question to you, and
mhm,
I know my answer. You have a daughter
right.
that's fighting for a scholarship,
Uh-huh.
and Dawn Staley is like picking, like recruiting you and a transgender, or pick like recruiting you, and then all of a sudden, again, so rare. You're absolutely right, T. Dubs. But this is just like a, I guess, in a rare occurrence. This
Right.
happens. Let's say it's a track coach, right, which is all
Right.
based on, and she's recruiting Dawn Staley. We'll go back to that example, recruiting your daughter, and then says, "Oh wait, this woman over here is actually scoring 25 points and you're only scoring 20 and you guys play the same position and she's jumps a little higher, runs a little faster. What's your take?"
I mean, I'm one of these people that is just by the rules. If that's in the rules and you need to do, if they're accepted and they're a part of the game, then you have to accept it. Like I'm not one to argue, stand up and try to argue against the rules. It's just like, hey, if that's what it is, then you got to deal with it. Like that's how I would look at it. Like, hey, that's a peer and she's better than you, then you got to deal with it.
And I don't mean to present it as a case where I'm for it or against it. I don't mean that. But
Right.
I'm just as playing devil's advocate.
No, I would definitely like think, oh, that's unfair for my kid. Oh, but what if flip it around the other way? What if that was my daughter who is the transgender who is playing well and doing well and the same deal? I would hope they get an opportunity. I mean, it's just like you flip it around too, right? Like, um, so yeah, I mean, I don't think every transgender is going to be some elite athlete. It's not like it's so rare on both sides to think that it's going to happen. It's just like, I don't know, to me, not even worth.
Anti-transgender athletes will point to, for example, the swimmer. I can't remember what school. I thought it was an Ivy League school. For some reason, I want to say Dartmouth.
We set all the world records and stuff, right?
I don't know about world records, but was initially swimming as a male, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, I hope I'm not screwing this up, and I apologize to everybody if I'm screwing it. And I'm going to review it after this. Was a decent. was mediocre, I think, in his time when swimming as a male, and then swam as a transgender and was killing it, right, winning all these races.
I mean,
Again,
if the person in real life is a transgender and is a acts and talks and lives the life of a woman, to me, you got to be okay with it, right? Like if they're just doing it for the sport, you got to that like that's unacceptable. But if you're like truly living the life of a woman and you believe you're a woman, then I think you just have to deal with the consequence of it. Like it's so rare, right? Like, it's
Leah Thomas, University of Pennsylvania, first openly transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division One national championship, having won the women's 500-yard freestyle event in 2022. It's a fascinating topic.
it's one I mean it's one truthfully that I don't really understand it. So it's even hard for me. I'm like kind of thinking I'll let other people tell me what the rules are and then I'll just abide by them. Because I just haven't taken the time to like figure out how the transition and what qualifies and did all of that. Like I'm just not interested in it first off. So like, hey, those are the rules. Let's just go with it. I don't. That may be the wrong. That's a very un-American take on it, but that's just what.
So I need to go back and correct myself because as a man, when Thomas began swimming on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania in 2017, during her freshman year, Thomas recorded a time of 8 minutes 57.55 seconds in the 1,000-yard freestyle that ranked as the sixth fastest national men's time, and also recorded 500 freestyle, 1,650-yard freestyle times that ranked within the top national top 100. So she was very good on the men's side as well. She wasn't mediocre. And we got hormone replacement therapy in 2019. Came out of children during her junior year. That's, you know what I got to tell you, no matter what, Thomas lost muscle mass and strength through testosterone suppression and hormone replacement surgery. Her freestyle is over, if her time, this is important, time for her freestyle 500 is over 15 seconds slower than her personal best before medically transitioning.
Interesting.
No matter what you say about her, and I hope people say this, would agree with this, so courageous, so brave.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm like, I mean, she went through a real transition of hormone. Like, she's not doing that for a sport. Like, let's keep it real. Like, she's not doing that to win this NCAA. Like, if she is doing that to win, like, you have to commend her, like, commitment to the sport to like change your gender to win. Come on, it doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you do that? So she's like, and to me, that seems pretty legit. Like, you're going through it in real life, then you qualify as a woman, then you let the chips fall where they may. Like, I don't know if you put an asterisk on it or whatever, but it's just like, hey.
Here's the big story. Former Kentucky swimmer Riley Gaines was among more than a dozen college athletes who filed a lawsuit against the NCAA on Thursday, accusing it of violating the Title IX civil rights by allowing transgender Leah Thomas to compete at the national championships in 2022. This was on March 15th. This was on the Ides of March 2024.
Yeah, I guess if you're in second place, you're obviously gonna feel like you've been cheated. But
And the
again,
NAIA all but bans transgender athletes from women's sports. NCAA vows to ensure fair competition.
hmm,
So there's more to come. It's going to be a big story. Continue. I mean, it already is.
Yeah, it just seems like there's so much nuance to this thing. It's gonna be hard. Like you got to know and understand a lot more just to make. You can't make a rash judgment. That's all.
You know, yep, yep, yep. Yesterday, an American icon passed. I don't know if you want to call him American icon. OJ, very controversial, I guess.
Yeah, I saw the news. It's weird. To me, to me, I was still sad about it just because it's a name that's been out there for so long. People of our age saw him before the incident and thought of him as, incredible athlete and actor and star. Yeah, I get it. There was, the whole trial and his name was definitely soured. But he still died. It's crazy.
Another polarizing incident,
Yeah,
long moment
yeah,
in the United States, right? Where you saw, I mean, what the scenes after he was found not guilty,
right,
images and the videos. And you saw, it's funny, my dad, and this interesting line about it. I was working as a TV reporter in Wisconsin. I was talking to my dad, and he was like, well, it was almost like payback. It's like after all the years of injustices for
right,
people, folks in this country, maybe maybe black folks, maybe we got away. He didn't say we because he was white. He said maybe black folks got away with one.
right. Yeah. No, I mean, he didn't confess at before his death. Right now, he never did. Right. So,
He wrote that book that I
right.
just was watching the news a lot about his death yesterday.
He did it as a hypothetical, right?
If I did it, which almost became I did it. Right.
Right.
I didn't read it. I don't know a lot about it. I almost want to read it after they were talking about it yesterday. Um, there were a lot of, yeah. I mean, I think he was definitely a hero for black folks, right? No doubt, he was definitely a hero for black folks. When I grew up, when I was little, and I have some years on you, I remember I got an OJ Simpson jersey for Christmas. I
Yeah.
remember my cousin had like season tickets to the Jets game, and they took me to a couple of times, and I saw OJ live. And I was real little, and of course, I was pretending to be OJ. He was a hero in my
Yeah.
community.
He was. And people, younger people only know him probably as the murderer, the ex football player, that now murderer. But yeah, I remember even him as like in Naked Gun. Like, remember that he was hilarious in that, and then he was doing the commercial where he's like, I don't know if it was Hertz or some rental car thing where they forgot a briefcase and he's running through the airport to help somebody. Like, to me, I have fond memories of his persona prior to that, and I think that's why the night, that the chase was so shocking because your thoughts of him were like funny, charismatic, great, you know, leader. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a strange night for me,
yeah,
but I'll come back to that in a second.
Knicks Rockets.
He was the first player to rush for 2,000 yards in a 14-game season.
Yeah.
Amazing, incredible like career as a football player. Incredible.
So do you think he should be recognized? I think that article that you sent, they said his teams did not recognize him, his school did not recognize him. I guess the Heisman Trophy listed his football achievements, but do you think others should? Like, or does what happened to negate, like, is he erased from memory or what?
Let's let's just say he didn't murder. Just hypothetically speaking, let's just
Okay,
hold on that for a second. He had definitely abused his wife,
right.
right? Should people who commit domestic battery be
Right.
recognized.
Right. I mean, could there be a CTE thing in there? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when he started abusing women. I don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe he did in high school, he did in college. Maybe he
Right.
just he was above the law, and maybe people get crazy when they get sometimes some people get crazy when they get fame and money and fortune and think that they can control everything. Or he could be one of these really controlling people.
Yeah.
It could be CT. You're absolutely right. It's a great point.
Like, let's say, I mean, another crazy. This is even more crazy than yours. Let's say he did murder. He did all of these things, but he had CTE from his football. What does that do for people?
Is the NFL as guilty as he is?
Right. Like, then it's like the thing that we loved him for caused him to do this. Whew, that's a lot. That's a lot to think about.
If you're right, if it was CTE, and if the NFL knew about it, or knows about it now,
Right.
what is the
I mean,
NFL's
not to
response?
say that, CTE turns you into a murderer because obviously it doesn't, but it does. It makes your brain act a little more erratic.
There's lots of stories where people fall and bang their heads and become totally different people.
Yeah. That's so scary. No, that happened. I mean, I have a good friend where that actually happened. Somebody randomly, kind of, he was a random punching victim, hit his head on the back of the concrete on the sidewalk. His hands were in his pocket. Whole life changed. Totally different person. So sad. That's what happens, though. I mean, the brain is delicate.
Listen to an NPR report where this guy, it starts off with this guy being arrested
Uh-huh.
for child pornography. And FBI comes in, raids his home, takes him to jail, and takes him away. And his family's like, "What the heck's going on here?" It turned out, like 6 months or a year prior, he fell and hurt his head really badly. And
Oh,
all of a sudden, his life completely changed because he started researching child pornography or looking up pictures and all this. Since I guess when they looked and reviewed his computer,
oh wow.
that incident happened. I'm so fearful of anything happening to my 3-year-old with his head because he hits his head every day, 10 times a day. I almost think he should have a helmet.
It's funny you say that. I bought my child a helmet. It's like a blanket head protect, but they hated it. They never wore it. I think I ended up giving it to somebody because I have the same concern. I'm like, man, they're hitting their head awful a lot. But I think when they're that young, it's still developing. So
That's
there's
my
this,
biggest. He's so damn wild. Anyway, forgive me when you watch this, little guy. If you ever watch this,
it's scary.
love you to death, but you drive me crazy sometimes when you bang your head. I remember the night of going back to OJ. The night it happened, I was hanging out with my 14-year-old daughter's mother. Yeah, my older guy's mom and I were supposed to hang out, and whatever. I think she
You were you watching the Knicks Rockets? Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I brought my 14-year-old mom's a Patrick Ewing jersey to wear that night on the Knicks, watching the Knicks Rockets, and all of a sudden, they got preempted by
Yes.
the video of the white Bronco.
Yeah, same. I was watching. I remember we were all, like a bunch of us were watching. Um, and yeah, same deal. We were shocked because it was like, what? And first of all, we're upset that they were taking off the game and distracting us from the game because we wanted the Knicks anyway. I just remember that night being so like, well, all right, this is crazy, but I also want to watch the game. So can we figure out how to do split screen or something? Is that how you were too? I was like, this is wild and crazy. I can't believe it's happening.
And more like, you know what? I can catch up on the OJ shit later. Let me
Yeah,
finish.
no, it was definitely like, all right, I get it why everyone wants to watch this, but I really want to watch a game. Can we? Yeah, that was very frustrating. And I want to say at the time it wasn't crazy close, but it was like close enough that we needed to watch it.
But it the basketball was so freaking good then. But
Yeah.
that was an incredible story. Looking back,
No, unbelievable. I mean, that's yeah. It's hard to imagine something like as big as that happening again.
it is like he's a national hero being chased down the highway by all kinds of feds and
Right.
cops. So whoever else was chasing helicopters.
Right.
Where did he think he was going? What was he doing? Was his plan really to go to Mexico? Was he, I don't know, was he trying to escape off where? And who knows?
Yeah. It was really bizarre. And he's
So
gone
good.
now. He's gone now. All that is gone, which if nothing else, it's a hell of a legacy that he left, whether good or bad. I mean, he left a mark on you know the world.
And but you talked about none of his teammates, very few of his teammates, none of the organizations that he played for, only the Heisman Trophy
Yeah,
statement came out announcing his accolades as a player. None of the teams mentioned anything. They haven't said anything.
a few teammates said stuff, but
Few
yeah,
teammates, none of the teams.
right. No teams, no
We
organizations said anything. Which I get it though. It's like you said, he's polarizing. So you'd probably rather just be quiet.
if you say something, you're gonna have a lot of people attacking you.
Yeah,
How
for
dare
sure.
you say what a great life this woman killer, this woman abuser, this criminal. How dare you recognize him?
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
don't say, you get a lot less critics, right? No one's going to castigate you. Well, not but there are a lot of people who say, guess what? Maybe how do you know he was guilty? There are a lot of people who say, you know what? You had to find him not guilty because of Mark Furman lying on the stand, Mark Furman using the N word, Mark Furman being a racist, like
Right.
in tainting evidence.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But it was definitely polarizing in this country. Awful.
Wild. What was the next topic? Kentucky?
Kentucky, what is bigger, the brand or the coach in this case?
Yeah, I wonder that too, right? Like, I don't know. Kentucky is like the weirdest bubble of all of college basketball, would you say? Like
Yeah.
irrational fan base.
But also, when you talk about look at the history
Yeah, with Rupp.
with Rupp and being like this insane racist,
Yeah,
KKK, right? And but the fan base, yeah, I mean the fan base is starting to question, like it's similar to UVA, right? The fan base is finally starting to question TV. Maybe last year they did,
no,
but
it becomes a what have you done for me lately as opposed to like
but
trusting.
when you look at Calipari, you look at the most. He's got tons of players in the NBA.
Yep,
Right? He changed the game with the one and duns. He's bringing in so much media hype,
right,
energy into Kentucky. I think it's what town is it? Frankfurt, Kentucky,
right.
Lexington,
Lexington.
Lexington, right? So much media hype, bringing all these great players, bringing stars to the game. Ashley Judd's there, right? But again, what does he want? And now that is that I don't know too many people, college friends, college coaches, other people, scouts, who have said that they think he's a good coach.
Yeah, he won it
But
in 2012, right? That's 12 years ago.
in New Orleans, the one thing that I think is undeniable, though, is he left a path of destruction at his previous schools.
Yeah,
UMass created something special there, and then left them at the beats.
right.
Memphis,
Huge mess.
big mess. They had to forfeit their season, right?
Yeah.
Um, it came out that somebody took Derrick Rose's SATs. There was some other
Yeah, but now
transfer.
with NIL, I don't think he left a mess behind.
No, this is the first place, right,
Yeah,
in Kentucky, except unless right, all the kids transfer out.
right.
But
Which
then
is
that's not
possible.
at least, but that's not putting them on probation.
Yeah,
that's not like they have to. There's everything's still in. I believe there's no. It's not like Kansas had some question marks.
And I was talking to a big Kentucky fan and friend who said the interesting thing that happened at Kentucky with NIL was that people prior loved boosters and influencers that kind of wanting to get closer to the program, like liked the idea of illegally paying players and getting in with players and kind of being in cahoots with them. And when it became public NIL and you openly had to pay, they weren't as willing to do it because they didn't feel the need to. Because it's Kentucky, it's a brand. And I found that fascinating to think about. Like so they liked doing it illegally. They didn't when it was legal. They didn't want to do it anymore. Which is that interest? I just didn't see that as possible for Kentucky. Um, so I guess like they said, NIL wasn't as lucrative as they thought it would be on the booster and collective side for that reason, which is fascinating.
But I think there's a couple of things to that, right? One, now it's the open market and everybody can cheat legally,
Right,
right? Like, so I've heard some people make that comment about Alabama,
right.
or Urban Meyer. I forgot who it was. Somebody made that comment about it. And then I should probably get that back straight. But then, so now it's on the open market, everybody can do it, and the playing field becomes a lot more level, right? But you still have to be a master at how you're going to get those guys there. So now, as a booster, I have to battle with every other school. Well, maybe
Right.
now it's a little bit harder work, right? Now I can't dictate and control everything, right?
Yeah, my
Now
money
they,
doesn't go as far anymore.
right? And then, you know, you're dealing with, guys who are on a 1 year lease, whether they go to the league or somewhere else for more money.
Right,
And we talked about this before, the ROI. What's the ROI in NI?
right. Very
What
low.
is it's limited.
Yeah,
There is none,
yeah.
right?
I mean, you
And
have to it's a donation, it's not an investment. It's a donation.
in that donation, if I'm giving to the collective, do I still have the same relationship? Can I still develop the same relationship with players? Because if I'm giving in the past, if I was giving you $1 million, you were coming to my house, you were
Right,
hanging out with my kids,
right.
you were going to the barbecues, you were coming over for Christmas, we were hanging out. I get to tell everybody, oh, this is my guy. It was almost like a little bit of a slave mentality, but it's a transactional relationship.
Right.
You don't really care about him, right? You paid him to sit down, hang out with your kids, and let your kids tell
Right.
everybody that they knew Anthony Davis. I'm not saying that's happened with Anthony Davis, but I'm just throwing a name
Yeah,
out for
yeah.
somebody in Kentucky who may or may not have received money. I don't mean to suggest and imply that Anthony Davis received money to go there,
Right.
right? But I also know that Kentucky, I don't know if they paid or didn't pay legally, illegally, but I do know when kids finished school, they went on autograph signing
Yeah.
sessions that
Right.
raised tons of money.
Tons of money. Yeah.
Right? They might have gotten 50,000. They might have received $50,000 per session.
All right.
So consider those after you finish playing, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. That's big bank.
Yeah, that's
From the
big.
time you say, okay, season's over, I'm inputting my name in the league in the draft. Now I'm not beholden to the rules of being a student athlete, an amateur student athlete. Now I can go out there and have as many autograph sessions and make as much money as I want.
Yeah.
Right? I know that was one way to do it.
Amazing.
We're gonna see like what's bigger. We already saw one kid transfer. As far as I know, just one, and one kid I think it just came out decommitted.
Yeah, I'm sure like Reed Shepherd's probably going to the league and a bunch of guys are going to the NBA and then the rest will, gonna transfer out, I'd imagine.
I wonder. I'm curious. It's going to be how long is it going to take Cal Poly to build something special at Arkansas I
Not
think it's a
long.
lot of this. I don't know now. If you asked me in the past what was bigger prior to NIL, the coach or the brand, right? Clearly, Calipari did it wherever he made it wherever he went. He built something
Right.
very
I would
competitive.
I would say like realistically initial take on that is definitely the school brand is bigger because a school brand can make a coach um can take a coach to the next level. Like if you're Mark Pope at BYU, you can get you can go far, don't get me wrong. But if you go to a Kentucky or a Kansas, it takes you to a different stratosphere. So my gut would be the school brand is bigger because you can take a nobody, tie him with the school brand, and become somebody, and then he can go there and build a brand, right? Like, unless you're Jimmy
But
Boeheim or someone who's been there for many, many years, like that's tough to say if they're bigger than the school or whatever.
it could also work the other way. Like I look at somebody like a Matt Doherty who ended up coaching
Right.
at
Yeah, you
Anya,
can definitely go the other way.
right? There was a couple other Kentucky guys who were there for a moment and flopped.
Yeah, Billy Gillespie.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, it can go the other way, but like to me, that's the brand, right? The I would say
Yes.
the school brand and the history of that brand is just bigger. Now, Calipari is a unique situation that he has his own brand that got elevated once again and put in the spotlight of Kentucky, but I think he's got his own brand now that he can go to Arkansas and be very successful, and but he probably doesn't need Kentucky. Like truthfully, he's got his own brand. He's good. Like, but yeah, like you know, you can't tell me Tony Bennett, as great as he is and huge as he is at UVA, if you take his exact story and put it in UCLA, he's not bigger. Like he's massive, right? He's or you take him and you put him at Kansas and regardless, you take the exact success and do it at Kansas. It's a much, much bigger story, sadly.
Yeah. No point taken. I think you're right. I think that Calipari is in a different, right? Calipari maybe Pino, who at one point was Don, the godfather of college basketball.
Right.
Outside those two guys right now, I mean, it was Krzyzewski maybe,
Yeah, like Hubert Davis, if Hubert Davis goes to UNC Wilmington, it's not a story at all. Like UNC Wilmington is nothing. Like, so
true.
last topic, Shohei Ohtani
I am
gambling.
the whole gambling thing is really upsetting to me and disturbing.
Yeah,
All know, we all know like gambling is not okay.
right.
People suffer from addiction to gambling often, all the time.
Yeah.
There's so many stories of people losing their families, their houses, their whatever,
I mean,
their
is it
lives,
gambling or is it just addiction?
addiction to gambling. Like, okay, drugs, you people are addicted to drugs. We know drugs are bad.
Right. I mean, I think it's a personality disorder, right? I think you're just addicted. It just comes out in the form of gambling because it's legal. If it wasn't, it would be something else.
But now we look at smoking. We all know how bad smoking is.
Yeah.
And it's still legal, which is blows
Right.
my mind. But we
Totally.
know all about the dollars that are generated and the tobacco companies and the lobbyists, right? And the same thing for gambling. Like it was illegal, and all of a
For
sudden
many
it was a
years. Yeah. I mean, I
supreme.
will say, like, you know, a, as an Asian person, we love gambling, and we probably have whatever gene that is of gambling addiction. I remember like as a young man not making a lot of money, but when I got to Vegas and started gambling, I definitely felt like, oh, there are moments where I'm not totally in control here. I need to gamble, but it never got totally like. I mean, I never like went to a pawn shop and pawned off everything I owned. But like I remember thinking, I don't have the money to gamble this, but I'm doing it anyways, just for that, just for the thrill, and I love it. So I get it.
I tell you, it's not limited to Asian folks.
No,
Like that's
definitely
every,
not. But like Shohei, I'm just thinking on the Shohei Ohtani, like his translator, I guess the feds have now come out and said he like Shohei Ohtani is not guilty of anything. It's all on the interpreter. Which I found interesting. They took Otani's phone and they traced everything and said, yeah, he didn't have any knowledge. The interpreter was acting on his own.
so and I'm always questioning like some people so quick to jump to say, oh, he was definitely guilty. Like, how
Right.
do you know that?
Right.
What makes you say that? How do you know that? I mean, I could see somebody say John Tay Porter because now they're starting to become evidence, or allegedly there's evidence, right? But with Otani, like, how do you know? Like, you weren't there. It's just like I saw something this morning that reminded me of why I don't pass judgment until I know all the facts.
Yeah.
Saw something on YouTube talking about earlier this morning, Jim Jackson on ESPN talking about
Tony
the
Braxton.
Jason Kidd and whatever about Tony Braxton. He's
Yeah.
like, none of that ever happened. I
Yeah.
never even knew Tony Braxton, and he spelled out everything that happened.
Yeah.
Where
So
at that time, everybody had an opinion about it.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that so well. It's such a good story.
That somebody talked about Kobe Bryant. I remember being at a barbecue and someone telling me who loved Kobe Bryant that Kobe Bryant didn't do anything wrong. How do you know that?
Yeah. Right.
Maybe you're right, but you don't know that.
Right. You don't know that.
I mean, this woman, and this is a woman blaming another woman. Like, how do you, what are we doing?
Right.
So going back to the show, Tommy, like, I really hope that everything that's coming out now is actual, is factual, right?
Right.
It, nothing to do with it. And
It
this is
sounds
proof.
like it. I mean, like the latest that I saw was that he had such a gambling addiction that he spent $300,000 on packs of cards, opening baseball cards. So he also had an addiction to just that too. Like in a couple of months, I guess he spent 300 grand on packs of cards and had them shipped to, his office. $300,000 worth of cards. Like that's that is an insane amount of like opening packs. Like I know that's a lot more expensive nowadays, but 300 grand, that's insane.
I mean, what was he looking for? Like, who's the best players now? Otani, rookie
Well, I guess he
card.
could have been looking for anything because you can buy any year, right? He might have been looking for Michael Jordan's rookie or this. He like 300 grand. I mean, I guess yeah, you're right. If he's buying 1952 packs, I mean, he's not buying a lot, but like 300 grand opening packs. So the guy clearly had an addiction problem. I can't imagine you can pin like why would Otani want his own cards like or whatever cards in general. It just looks like he had an addiction to gambling, which is kind of sad. Like I think about this a lot in terms of like today we talked about it like this era we talked about last time this era of people growing up with gambling so open, are they gonna have problems later? Like online, like it's so accepted today. Like you see the parlays and you see all these people like making bets, and it seems very like desensitizing to everyone. But I'm like, is it? Is it? Are we gonna have a problem in 20 years where like there's a massive gambling anonymous like trend?
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
I've had that multiple times. And we're going to see more players like John Tay Porter,
yeah,
who might not do it themselves, but do it through friends, right? Who are going to be banned. And now let me back up because I don't know if John Tay Porter is guilty, right? But if he is, but there was a couple of football players, or at least one, that's been banned because he was gambling. It's not. There's going to be more and more, but like it's just too easy. Like, wait a minute, I get to bet on myself, and it's right here in my hand on my
right,
phone. All right, I'm going to quickly call my guy. And what about coaches?
right. And ref, I mean, everyone's involved.
I think it's so bad that you're allowed to bet on that it became legal. so
Well,
bad
it's
with the
not in
women.
California. You can't in California. You can't do
It's
the player props and all that stuff. Um, yeah.
yeah, it's going there's going to be a problem. There already is a problem, and it's going to get worse. It's going to
Yeah, I feel
continue to
like
get worse.
the kids that are now what in college maybe like of legal even illegal game like 18 and up, they're growing up with like a crazy amount of gambling content and culture.
My guess is it's younger than that. I remember being 13, 14 years old and doing it in school.
Yeah, so it's got to happen now today. I don't know if they can get on apps and do it though. So
Well, I mean, my guess is you could probably lie or you do it through a friend. I mean, we had it was a school bookie, right? My friend
yeah,
and
I
I were
guess so.
gambling.
There's always ways around that.
Yeah, we're
But
doing
like
it. Yeah,
totally accessible, like
so easy. And then you just right, and you spend a lot of. I know people. We know people in common
yeah,
that are in trouble.
yeah,
One guy we both know who had to go to rehab
yeah,
recently. Like he's fortunate that his parents have a lot of money that he can do it.
yeah. That's crazy.
There's going to be a problem, bigger problem than there already is. No question.
Yeah, it seems
And
that way. Yeah, it seems anyway. I
NBA playoffs coming up. Maybe we can talk about that real quick.
What's that?
NBA playoffs coming up
Yeah,
real quick. I mean, just so we don't end on a sour note talking about
on
gambling and all
gambling.
that.
Yeah, let's do it.
A lot of parity.
A lot. The West, especially, I feel like.
Yeah, but all the teams in the East, I think there's still with 2 games left that you could drop from either 2 to 9 and
Yeah,
vice versa.
it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. Good for basketball, or do you like it when Magic and Bird were dominating?
I mean, I think as a basketball fan, I think it's way better, but I think for a casual fan, having one dominant team is better for viewership. That's my guess. Like having this parity also like you don't really know, and the average person doesn't even care. Like, does the average person know how good Oklahoma City is now? No, they don't care. But if it was Kobe and Shaq with the Lakers and they're going for, undefeated playoffs, I don't know. That's my opinion. But maybe things have changed now with, League Pass and the highlights and all of that. Maybe people are more adept to picking up on this stuff. Um, but I'm guessing not based on Caitlin Clark, right?
I was going to bring it back there. um,
Yeah,
and I want to talk about emerging stars at some point in the future
yeah,
and comparing them to now and could older guys play now and could those emerging stars play then? Maybe another show. So my friend who I saw in the building, we'll take it back there. Maybe this will help conclude the show. Who I saw in the building this morning talking about the women's basketball, and she goes, "Yeah, it's kind of like what happened with Larry Bird and Michael Johnson." I didn't correct her, but I'm pretty certain she was talking about Magic
yeah,
Johnson, right? And not Michael Jordan, but
yeah.
how they say it.
No, it's
Like
very true.
she was embarrassing in the excitement of Caitlin Clark and some of the other players now of women's basketball.
I think that's
That's
fair, right? Like to take it back 30, 40 years, that's probably where women's basketball is. It's very early stages of like development.
yeah. I think you know what? I'm a little bit interested and curious now to watch WNBA and see what happens at least in the beginning
Yeah,
because there's a build up now that was marketed between
yeah,
Diana Taurasi's team and Caitlin Clark's team because she's expected it to be drafted the first by can't remember what team it was. Maybe the Fever. I'm not
yeah.
sure. Maybe,
Indiana Fever. Yeah,
and I think there's a game that they're already marketing as the old guard versus the new guard.
yeah. That's great.
Yeah, no, it is. It
I mean,
is. I'm curious.
I can count on my hands how many times I've watched a WNBA game. Yeah, I mean, I usually will watch I've watched the Aces win like at the last game clinching. Like I'll watch it. I'm not like locked in, but it's definitely on in the background. I'm watching and I'm curious what's gonna happen. But yeah, it will be interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm happy for the whole sport, well, and then product. So, you got any last words?
Oh man, that was good. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you, guys. That was fun. Until next time.
Yeah, till next time.